Chapter 486, Enemy for Life. Maybe. Currently, Naruto, Ino, and Haku were casually strolling through a forest, seemingly without a care in the world. It was rather obvious what they were doing. They were baiting. Isn't this a little bit too obvious, Naruto? Yeah, it probably is, but it doesn't matter, Ino. Even if he knows it's bait, he will still bite. This chance to capture me is too good to let go. However, you defeated and humiliated him the last time you fought. No matter how I look at it, I don't think he will dare to appear before you again. Naruto pondered Haku's assumption for a short moment before a light chuckle escaped his mouth. He had the perfect reason why Obito would dare to face him again. He is an Uchiha, and he just got an upgrade to his eye. Ah, that makes sense. That immediately explained the situation to the duo. They had seen how Sasuke repeatedly smashed his face into the mountain that is called Yuna every time he got an upgrade to his eyes, so they could understand Naruto's reasoning. As if someone wanted to confirm Naruto's words, Ino's head snapped in a certain direction due to noticing multiple huge chakra signatures. Seems like you were right, Naruto. I sense 5 rather powerful people moving towards us. Naruto hummed an acknowledgement and patiently waited for their enemy's arrival. A few seconds later, 5 people appeared in front of them. 4 of them had black eyes, indicating that they were reanimated, while the 5th one wore a spiral mask with 2 eye holes in it, revealing a Mangekyou Sharingan and a Rinnegan. Naruto knew all 5 of them. The masked man was obviously Obito, while the other 4 were the Jinchuriki of the 2, 4, 5, and 6-tailed beast. Yujito Nii, a woman with black eyes and blonde hair. She was the Jinchuriki of the 2-tailed Madatabi. The next one was Rosha, a middle-aged man with a beard and mustache. He was the Jinchuriki of the 4-tailed Son Goku. Then there was a heavily armored man with light brown eyes named Han, the Jinchuriki of the 5-tailed Kokua. And finally, there was Udakada, a young, slim man with pale golden eyes and brown hair. The Jinchuriki of the 6-tailed Saikan. Naruto saw the lineup Obito had prepared to capture him and chuckled in amusement. Fighting a Jinchuriki with another might sound like a good idea, but the more tails a Bijou had, the stronger they were. The strongest one on Obito's side had 6 tails, making him significantly weaker than Kurama, even if it was only one half of him. Naruto flicked his wrist, causing Obito to flinch as he prepared himself to be trapped in another one of Naruto's so-called prank arrays. However, instead of a seal activating or a weapon appearing, a heavily ornate fan appeared in Naruto's hand, which he opened with a crisp smack. He started fanning himself as he slightly lifted his head and started talking down on Obito. You left this young master waiting for quite a while. However, this young master is in a good mood, so if you kowtow to me and slap yourself, this young master will allow you to keep your life. While Obito had no clue why Naruto suddenly started talking weirdly, Ino and Haku couldn't help but face palm. Naruto, you have been acting like that more frequently. What is going on? Yeah, hearing you talk like that is really weird. Naruto stopped fanning himself as he closed his fan with another crisp smack. It took him a while to get the sound how he wanted it to be, but all that hard work paid off. This young master has accepted his dark self, so it cannot be helped. When this young master was confronted by his dark self, Yeah, no need to retell the story, we saw the record MPFH. Before Ino could finish talking, Haku hastily blocked Ino's mouth, but it was already too late as Naruto's whole body froze. He even dropped the fan he was previously holding as his face grew paler and paler. Moments later, an enraged shout left his mouth. So Nasan really managed to record it. Damn it. When Ino realized her mistake, she could only smile wryly. She totally forgot that Haku and had decided to keep this a secret from Naruto, but now she had actually spilled the beans. After thinking about it a while longer, she simply shrugged her shoulders and continued talking. It's not like Naruto would get mad at them, after all. Actually, she even showed us the exact moment your mind broke. From the standpoint of someone like me, who specializes in the mind, it was a truly fascinating experience. Naruto heard Ino's words and somehow got even angrier. If Kurama weren't Naruto's friend, he would have undoubtedly broken free by now. I will definitely kill you, Nii-san. Meanwhile, Obito was looking at the situation in front of him in utter bewilderment. He had not the slightest clue how he was supposed to act in the current situation. He tracked down Naruto to capture him and found him strolling through a forest pretty much unprotected. Although he realized that this would likely be a trap, he couldn't let go of this chance, so he gathered the reanimated Jinchuriki to confront him. However, before he could even get a single word in, Naruto became crazy, and after a conversation he couldn't follow in the slightest, Naruto suddenly declared that he would kill Yuna. Additionally, wasn't that scream of Ender somewhat familiar? Obito was sure he had just imagined that. However, that wasn't even the thing that bothered Obito the most. Oi, I'm still here, aren't I? Why are they ignoring me like that? Can't you see the people standing behind me? Those are all Jinchuriki, okay? Shouldn't you pay more attention to me? Considering all the madness happening in front of him, there was honestly only one thing Obito could say. Toby is a good boy. Chapter 487, Someone's in Trouble. Toby is a good boy. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle a little when he heard Obito's outburst. Guess his brain overheated a little, huh? Didn't his mind break? Nah, why would it? It's not like Nei-san is here. Really? After all the things you put this guy through, you still claim that you didn't deal any damage to his mind. Ma, those were just some harmless pranks. No big deal. Harmless, huh? Wasn't he begging Zetsu to get him out of there? That must have been your imagination, Kurama. While Naruto and Kurama were chatting, Ino and Haku gave Obito looks of pity. Poor guy, his mind shattered just like that. Damn, why is he wearing a mask? I would have loved to see his facial expression at the moment he lost his mind. Well, at least Haku was pitying him. As for the Jinchuriki Obito brought, none of them showed any reactions. While traveling here, they were bantering like crazy while constantly throwing hidden insults at Obito, so he made Orochimaru shut them up. Obito heavily shook his head to get out of his daze a short while later. This wasn't the time to get dazed, after all. He eyed the three people as a smirk appeared on his masked face. Know that I've finally caught you alone, it's time to capture you. Naruto looked at Obito weirdly before glancing at Ino and Haku, who clearly stood next to him with equally confused expressions on their faces. Are you high, or did Nei-sen pull another prank? There are clearly two people standing next to me. Obito sneered when he heard Naruto's words, as he indifferently shrugged his shoulders. Do you honestly believe those two are worthy of fighting me just because they warm your bed at night? The trio frowned when they heard Obito's words, but after thinking about it for a short moment, they realized that Ino and Haku had pretty much no interaction with Akatsuki so far, so it might not be too weird to think of them as average shinobi from Obito's point of view. Nevertheless, Naruto couldn't just let Obito's statement hang like that. Okay, first of all, we occasionally do it during the DA. Oh wow, I give up. I'm sorry. Before Naruto could boast about his sex life, Ino and Haku realized what he wanted to do and pinched his waist from both sides, causing him to beg for mercy, while Obito's mind started drifting away again. A few seconds later, Ino and Haku stopped attacking Naruto, allowing him to continue speaking. Anyway, what I wanted to say was that these two are not worthy of fighting you because they sleep with me. They are worthy of fighting you because they are worthy of standing by my side. If it weren't for the current situation, Ino and Haku would have probably dragged Naruto into a nearby bush for summon activity. Frankly, these words were exactly what they wanted to hear. Considering how ridiculously powerful Naruto was, these two always felt a little inferior. Haku was still somewhat fine since she had a Kekai Genkai she could fall back on, but Ino only had her Klein techniques and no special bloodline. However, they had now reached the goal they always wanted to reach. They might not be as strong as Naruto, but now they could at least fight side by side with him, something Ino had wished to happen since the first Chunin exam. Naruto noticed the duo's mood and nodded at himself in approval. As expected of me, I easily distracted them from the first topic I wanted to breach and improve their mood. Sai, where do you even learn stuff like that? You didn't even have that much contact with Yuna recently. Contact is no longer necessary, Kurama. I've already fallen too far to ever recover. Sai, that's true, isn't it? After the first time you got drunk, I should have noticed that you are already a hopeless case. Indeed, RIP me. Obito could feel a pink-colored atmosphere engulfing Naruto, Ino, and Haku, causing his eyebrow to twitch like crazy. Have these three seriously started flirting in front of me? Aren't they looking down on me too much? Very well, I will show them what it means to oppose me. Transform. When the four reanimated people heard Obito's words, powerful chakra burst out of them as their bodies started transforming. Hey! You weren't supposed to use the strongest transformation at the start of the battle. That's like super bad manners. Obito ignored Naruto's angry yells about manners or something and jumped up to land on the head of Saikan, the six-tailed beast. Enough with this nonsense. It's time to capture you. Naruto clicked his tongue as yellow chakra covered his body while his pupils turned cross-shaped. Seems like we got some work to do, partner. Yeah, let's get this over with. This farce has been going on for too long. Moments later, 100 meters tall, nine-tailed fox appeared. Its base color was yellow and there were black stripes all over its body. Obito couldn't help but sweat a little when he realized that Naruto had very likely become a perfect Jinchuriki. This will be harder than I thought. Inside the giant chakra construct, Naruto, Ino, and Haku could be seen floating. They were currently positioned inside the giant fox's head. Haku, are you ready? Yes, I'm done gathering chakra. As she said that, she clapped her hands together, immediately causing the temperature to lower. Ice cultivation style, giant ice armor. Naruto heard someone yell something about a too-short technique name in the distance, but he was sure that was just an illusion. Anyway, the figure of the giant fox was immediately covered by thick ice armor, making it look even more imposing. Ino. Ready, I can't read Obito's mind due to the Rinnegan's protection, but I can read the minds of the four Jinchuriki. I will project their movements into your mind during the fight. Oh, let's go. This will be our first fight as a team against a real enemy. Yes. Meanwhile, Obito could feel a slight stomachache coming as he looked at the gigantic fox entirely covered with a dense ice armor. This will be fine, right? Chapter 488, Bijou vs. Bijou. Moments later, the battle started with the Five Tails charging Naruto's Kurama figure. However, Kurama easily caught his horn with his two hands and stopped the attack. At the same time, Madatabi appeared on his left and Saikan on his right. Madatabi inhaled deeply and shot a wave of searing flames out of her mouth towards Naruto's figure, while Saikan did the same, shooting acid instead of flames. Haku moved inside Kurama's body and clapped her hands together. Moments later, two gigantic ice walls appeared next to Kurama's figure, blocking the two attacks. Roar. As Son Goku's massive form appeared above Kurama, an enraged roar echoed over the battlefield. Kurama's hands were still occupied with blocking Cuckoo's horn, but before Son Goku could hit them, Ino made a move, causing two additional hands to grow out of Kurama's back, which easily blocked the attack. Naruto may be the main controller of Kurama's chakra, but as long as his chakra signature was linked with Ino and Haku's, then the duo could easily control parts of Kurama's chakra as well. Well, since I allowed you to make the first move, it's my turn now. Mini Bijudama. A small Bijudama formed in front of Kurama's mouth and shot Cuckoo in the face at point blank, sending him flying away. Simultaneously, Kurama's 9 tails moved in packs of 3 and smashed into the other 3 Biju, causing them to stagger backward. Isn't this pretty bad? That thought appeared in Obito's head when he noticed how easily Naruto pushed the other 4 Biju away. I heard that the Kyuubi is the strongest of the 9, but this is ridiculous. However, Obito's thoughts weren't entirely correct. Although Kurama was indeed the strongest, Naruto only had one half of him, so easily winning a 4 against 1 like this was usually impossible. However, Kurama wasn't fighting alone. Haku's ice was very versatile, and Ino's ability to read surface thoughts gave them an unfair advantage. Anyway, Obito decided to kick it up a notch even if what he had planned to do will put a strain on him. The 4 Biju surrounding Kurama got up from their position and started gathering chakra. Moments later, a huge black sphere of condensed chakra started floating in front of each of them. Seems like we are in a pickle. Anyway, 1 per person. Sure. Okay. Whatever. Naruto rolled his eyes at Kurama's tsundere remark and focused on Kokua in front of him. Just like Kokua did, chakra condensed in front of Kurama's mouth, causing a black sphere to appear moments later. Kurama, who didn't want to think too deeply about this, moved one of his hands and pointed it at Saikan. Just like with Naruto, chakra gathered, forming a Bijudama. On the other hand, Haku chose to do something different as massive amounts of chakra were gathered by her. Luckily, she didn't need to bother about using too much of her chakra as she was within Kurama's chakra cloak, allowing her to replenish her chakra at any time. Meanwhile, Ino made her family's signature hand sign and pointed it at Son Goku. At first, she wanted to enter his mind directly, but she quickly dismissed that idea. She was still reluctant to forcefully enter the mind of such an old being. So, she decided to go for something more indirect. She gave Haku a short glance, and after getting a nod of understanding, Ino prepared herself for the incoming attack. Moments later, 4 Bijudama were sent flying, quickly followed by another 2. Massive explosions devastated the battlefield as 4 of the 6 Bijudama collided. The final 2 didn't explode yet, but one of them had collided with a massive ice ramp. Instead of exploding, its direction was changed slightly upwards, so it harmlessly passed above the small group. However, another 2 explosions echoed over the battlefield when the last 2 condensed chakra balls exploded. They had met in midair due to Ino confusing Son Goku's sensors and making him shoot his attack slightly upwards to make it collide with Saiken's. Having stray Bijudamas flying around all over the place was somewhat dangerous, so Ino and Haku decided to safely explode them in midair. Have you found them yet, Ino? Yeah, I got the position of all 5 stakes. I will send them over to you with telepathy. Naruto nodded his head as new information appeared in his head. Unlike the Jinchuriki themselves, the Biju weren't reanimated. Or rather, a Biju couldn't get reanimated since their souls didn't go to the Pure Land after their death. They would just continue wandering the world until the Biju was fully restored. So why did they obey Obito's orders? Each of them had a black chakra rod inserted into their bodies, and just like Nagata could control 6 bodies with these chakra rods, Obito was controlling the 4 Biju. Naruto made a cross sign with his 2 hands, causing 4 clones of him to appear, and moments later, all 4 of them vanished. It turns out it's pretty easy to stealthily put a teleportation marker on something as big as a Biju, which is precisely what Naruto did. 4 angry roars were heard from the 4 Biju as pain filled their bodies due to the black chakra stakes slowly being pulled out of their bodies. Obito genuinely panicked when he saw that as he hastily went through the summoning hand signs. If he were too slow and those rods got pulled out before he could finish his summoning, he would be in deep trouble since that would make him lose control of the 4 Biju. Luckily, he made it in time, and a massive statue with 9 eyes appeared within a monstrous smoke cloud. Not even half a second later, all 4 chakra rods were pulled out simultaneously, making Obito hastily go through more hand signs, resulting in 4 chakra chains coming out of the enormous statue he summoned, the Gedomaza, the husk of the Ten-Tails. Obito sighed in relief when the 4 bijou was safely absorbed back into the statue. He was sure that Naruto would try to stop him somehow, but to his surprise, Naruto didn't move at all. This feels off. Is there something I'm overseeing? No, he simply didn't understand what was happening and didn't want to intervene in a process he didn't know. Toby is AG. Cough? Yes, that must be it. Obito, it's bad. Orochimaru did something rather drastic. Before Obito could continue fighting, Black Zetsu came out of the ground and informed him of what Orochimaru had done. Shit, I was just about to capture the Kyuubi. Zetsu's eyebrow rose when he heard that cline. Although he didn't see how the 4 bijou were defeated, it was rather obvious what was going on since they weren't here. Additionally, Black Zetsu glanced at Obito's opponent and saw a gigantic fox wearing ice armor. On its head stood 3 people with crossed arms, who were clearly looking down on Obito. Seems like this one has snapped as well. Yes, you are clearly close to victory, but this matter is more important. Let's go. Obito nodded his head in agreement before throwing another glare at Naruto. Next time, you won't be this lucky. Naruto could only chuckle in amusement when he heard Obito's words. Spiral patterns appeared in the space surrounding Obito, and moments later, he was gone, leaving Naruto with a conflicted expression behind. Is this really the best way to do this, Ne-san? Ino and Haku shared a conflicted look when they heard Naruto's words before both of them HLD one of his HNDS. You shouldn't worry about this, Naruto. Yeah, she might be very chaotic when it doesn't matter, but Yuna is not someone who would sacrifice thousands of people just to have some fun. Naruto pondered the words of his 2 girlfriends for a short moment before nodding his head. Frankly, his sister's words and gestures needed to be observed under scrutiny at all times. Everything could be a prank, and everything could lead to a trap. But if it were a real life or death situation, Naruto would trust Yuna unconditionally. He sighed deeply before spreading his sense over the battlefield to see if he could help somewhere. You are correct, Ino, Haku. For now, let's continue fighting and save as many people as we can. Ino and Haku nodded their heads, and moments later, the trio vanished. Just like Yuna, Naruto had placed his teleportation markers all over the battlefield so that he could move around rather quickly. Chapter 489, Unexpected Meeting. Meanwhile, Sasuke was running around by himself on another part of the battlefield. He had already killed quite a few white Zetsu and was currently looking for more. He briefly wondered why he was by himself, but after thinking about it briefly, he easily concluded that it was only natural for him to be alone. After all, adding more people to the team would just hinder him. Obviously, that was complete nonsense. The reason why Sasuke was sent out alone was that Tsunade didn't believe he would be willing to follow a command structure, nor did she trust him to lead a bigger team, so this was pretty much the only choice. Suddenly, a cluster of shuriken came hurling at him at fast speed, making him scoff in disdain. Using shuriken against an Uchiha. Laughable. Sasuke quickly analyzed the flight path of the shuriken, causing his mouth to gape. No way, this technique is the... Despite his shock, Sasuke took out multiple shuriken as well and tossed them at the incoming projectiles. The attacks collided, but instead of cancelling each other out, the shuriken bounced off of each other and swiftly collided with more shuriken, producing ridiculously complex trajectories. When Sasuke saw that more attacks were coming, he immediately retaliated with his own, and around a minute later, the clash finally ended. You have become strong, Satsu. Cough Sasuke. Sasuke gritted his teeth when he realized who had just appeared. On the one hand, he was happy to meet this person again, on the other hand, he was angry that someone dared to summon them from the dead. It's been a while, Enai-san. That's right, the person who just appeared was Itachi Uchiha, Sasuke's older brother. Itachi hummed an acknowledgement as he took another look at Sasuke. Out of curiosity, have you discarded your revenge against Yuna? As soon as he asked that question, he could see a conflicted expression appear on Sasuke's face. There was clearly fear in his eyes, but the fires of revenge were still burning behind that fear, making him sigh deeply. Never. I will definitely get my revenge, no matter what it takes. Another deep sigh escaped Itachi's mouth as his body got into a combat stance. Sorry, Sasuke, I can't control my body. Be prepared, this is not the illness-plagued body you fought, but me at my peak. Sasuke nodded his head as he activated his Sharingan as well. Both moved simultaneously and made the same hand sign while taking a deep breath. Fire style, great fireball technique. Unlike during their last encounter, Sasuke's jutsu didn't overpower Itachi's. In fact, Sasuke's fireball was actually getting pushed back slowly. So this is Ni-sen's true power. How impressive. However, I won't lose. Sasuke put a little more chakra into his jutsu, resulting in the two fireballs cancelling each other out, causing Sasuke to smirk. Not bad, Sasuke, but what will you do about this? As Itachi said that, he closed one of his eyes before swiftly opening it again, revealing the Manjikyu Sharingan. Ape. Before he could finish his technique, Sasuke felt like something was off. The moment Itachi revealed his Manjikyu Sharingan, a weird hot sensation started spreading from his shoulder, slowly covering his whole body. Despite that, he was ready to dodge Itachi's Amaterasu when something weird happened. Blood started shooting out of Itachi's nose like a geyser, forcing him to cancel his Amaterasu. While question marks popped up above Sasuke's head, Itachi quickly wiped away the blood on his face while giving Sasuke a thumbs up. Damn, you really have grown, Satsuki. Even more question marks appeared above Sasuke's head when Itachi suddenly called him Satsuki. What is going on? Why is Ni-sen acting so weird? Now that I think about it, why do my chest and butt feel so tight? Sasuke looked down, only to wonder why he couldn't see his feet due to two massive red flesh mounts blocking his view. Sasuke got even more confused as he moved one of his hands to move whatever blocked his view away. However, the moment he tried to push what was blocking his view, a jolt of pleasure was sent through his body, causing him to moan a little. What the hell is going on? Meanwhile, Itachi was relatively close to ascending back to the Pure Land as he watched his little sister playing with her breasts in front of him. At first, he had not the slightest clue what was going on, but after thinking about it for a moment, he realized the situation. I see, a blessing from the low. I mean, lady. I'm truly thankful for this great gift you bestowed onto me. He clasped his hands into a praying pose while looking into the sky in worship as he thought that. The image of a young woman with crimson hair and blue streaks appeared in his head. She had 5 crimson horns arranged around her head and a wretched grin on her face, but Itachi was sure that was simply his mind playing a prank on him. After all, how could something bestowing such a gift upon him look this diabolic? Indeed, that was impossible. Sasuke continued playing with her beasts for a while longer before she finally realized what was going on. Why am I in this form? I didn't activate the seal at all. His eyes met with Itachi's, and moments later, Sasuke realized what he had just done in front of his beloved older brother, causing a crimson blush to appear on his face. No. I just played with my breasts while moaning in front of my big brother. Despite the shame, he started analyzing the situation, and honestly, there was only a single explanation for why he suddenly transformed. Yuna had knocked him out before and had plenty of time to do all kinds of things with his body. Considering this wouldn't even be the first time she had messed with his curse seal, there could only be one culprit. I will definitely kill you, Yuna Uzumaki. Chapter 490, A Blessing from the Lady. Moments later, the duo started clashing again. While Sasuke had a look of utter hatred on his face, Itachi wore a calm smile. However, he wasn't as calm as he appeared to be as a constant stream of blood flowed out of his nose. Yes, she definitely grew up, didn't she? As for the reason why Itachi was acting like that, well, Sasuke wasn't wearing a bra or anything else to control the movement of her chest, so engaging in high-speed combat turned things rather jiggly. While Itachi was internally praising his little sister's growth, Sasuke was repeatedly cursing. Shit, what the hell is this? FCK, why can't I turn back? What is going on? Yes, he was trying to deactivate her curse seal, but nothing would happen no matter what she did. Shit, FCK, this isn't permanent, is it? Is it? Itachi noticed that Sasuke was struggling with her new form and could only sadly shake his head. Shouldn't she know that I will support her in whatever decision she wants to make? Don't worry, my beloved Satsuka-chan, Big Brother is supporting you. If you prefer to use that form from now on, I will support you with all my heart. Sasuke almost face-planted when he heard Itachi's supportive words. What was he even supposed to say in this kind of situation? He was transformed into a woman, and he couldn't transform back no matter what he did. Now that he thought about it, this wasn't even the first time Itachi saw this transformation, so he concluded that he had come to the wrong conclusion. Seriously, what is wrong with Nii-san? Wasn't he supposed to be extremely smart? Why does he assume something ridiculous like me wanting to change my gender? On a side note, the most interesting aspect of this whole mess was probably that it only started because Naruto wanted to distract Itachi long enough so he could land a blow on Kasame. It wasn't even planned as a prank at first. To Sasuke's misfortune, Yuna realized what was going on and swiftly escalated the whole situation, culminating in Itachi going full Siscon. While Sasuke was sinking into despair due to his older brother somehow believing he wanted to switch genders and him having nothing but his words to disprove it, Itachi was analyzing the Edo Tensei. Yes, he might have gone full Siscon, but he was still one of the shinobi world's greatest geniuses. Unlike Tobirama, Itachi was not involved in the creation of the jutsu, so unlike him, he had to come up with multiple theories by himself, and after pondering for a few minutes, he came to a conclusion. Although my movements are somewhat restricted, I can choose the jutsu I want to use relatively freely. As long as it isn't something that causes me harm or would result in my defeat, I can do it. A gleam went through Itachi's eyes as he realized what he could do to get out of this situation. The summoning should definitely work, but will I be able to look into its eye? This is a gamble, but I'm willing to take it. After all, I currently have no other solution. Itachi swiftly went through a few hand signs, causing Sasuke to take some distance cautiously. Moments later, a single crow appeared. It looked like an average crow, except that it had a Sharingan in one of its eye sockets. This was one of the backup strategies he thought up to get Sasuke back to the village. This was one of Shisui's eyes, and as such, it contained the Kodoa Matsukami. Itachi predicted that Sasuke would take his eyes after their fight, so Itachi set it up so the Kodoa Matsukami would trigger as soon as it detected Itachi's Manjikyu Sharingan, activating it and forcing a subtle encouragement into Sasuke to become loyal to Konoha. Unfortunately, he never found a good person to entrust it to, so he had not used the crow. Additionally, Itachi didn't like the idea of using mind control on his little sister either. Now, however, this was the perfect opportunity. Considering how powerful the Kodoa Matsukami was, Itachi was confident that it could override the control of the Edo Tensei, which meant that he could act on his own again. Now that the crow was here and Itachi's Manjikyu Sharingan was already activated, he wanted nothing more than meet the crow's eye, but he couldn't do it. No matter how much willpower he used, he couldn't move his head towards the crow. Shit, to think the Edo Tensei's control over someone is this ridiculous. It's such a small movement, but I can't do it because it would lead to my defeat. Did I fail? Jiggle. While Itachi was fighting with himself, he saw an especially glorious jiggle from the corner of his eyes, causing his head to snap into the corresponding direction within an instant. He dutifully recorded the jiggle with his Sharingan and was just about to slap the annoying bird that was partially blocking his vision away when he felt something in his mind click. Itachi's Sharingan met the crow's, activating it automatically and casting the Kodoa Matsukami on him. Itachi immediately felt the shackles binding his will crumble, causing him to sigh in relief. "Stop, Satsuki," I managed to regain control. Sasuke, who was just about to launch another assault, eyed Itachi with suspicion, but he decided to trust him a little since Itachi wasn't moving in the slightest. "What happened, Nii-san?" "Don't worry, Satsuki, it was a blessing from the lady." Yet again, question marks popped up above Sasuke's head. He mentioned it previously, but who is the lady? Has Itachi become religious after leaving the village? He never appeared to me as someone who would follow a religion. Before Sasuke could ask any further questions, a determined expression appeared on Itachi's face as his gaze landed on Sasuke. "Come, Sasuke, I might not have been a good brother while I was still alive, but I will make up for it in my death. Let us hunt someone as brothers for the first and the last time." An excited grin appeared on Sasuke's face when she heard Itachi's words. This was right up there as one of her greatest wishes, fighting side by side with her big brother. "Who are we hunting, Nii-san?" Itachi felt Sasuke's excitement and couldn't help but get happy as well. "The one who cast the Edo Tensei. For the sake of Konoha, they cannot be left alive." A conflicted expression appeared on Sasuke's face when Itachi spoke about Konoha in such a grand manner. Unlike Itachi, his loyalty to Konoha was basically non-existent. However, he decided to push those awkward feelings away. After all, he will fight side by side with his big brother soon. "Yes, Nii-san." Chapter 491, Meeting her old sensei. Meanwhile, a small group of shinobi was traveling through a forest at high speed. The person leading this group was Anko Midoriya, who had a 2-meter-long crimson snake hanging on her body like a shawl. This group was assigned a rather critical mission. They were to capture a random reanimated person and then slap a special seal on them that would trace back the connection to the caster, revealing their position. Although that would very likely alert the caster, it was still better than having no clue at all. Histilda. "Geese, we will be there soon, Akane." "What are you so antsy for?" Histilda. "Yes, I know I answered you the same way the last time you asked that question. That is because the last time you asked me was like 5 minutes ago." Histilda. "Yeah, I'm also hoping this will be an interesting fight. I wonder who the summoner is." Histilda. "No, it can't be Kabuto since he is still imprisoned inside Konoha." Histilda. While Anko was talking with Akane, the rest of her squad looked at her like she was crazy. Naturally, they knew that shinobi could communicate with their summoned animals to some degree. However, Anko wasn't simply communicating, she was straight up chatting. Obviously, holding a proper conversation with a summoned animal was also possible, however, that usually involved the animal being capable of human speech. The snake wound around Anko clearly wasn't. Actually, when they saw their group leader for the first time, quite a few of them were a little dissatisfied. Not only was Anko the youngest person in the group, but she was also a woman. During the Warring States period, women had no place on the battlefield simply because they were supposed to stay at home and churn out more children to be tossed into the meat grinder that was the Warring States period. Although that sentiment was slowly vanishing, quite a lot of the older generation was still taught like that and firmly believed it to be true. However, their dissatisfaction with Anko vanished rather quickly when they encountered their first objective, a reanimated person from Kuma. The person was quickly identified as an S-rank missing nin, causing the group to sweat. In their opinion, they didn't have the firepower to take out such a high-level threat. However, they were quickly proven wrong when Anko's speed suddenly tripled. She appeared in front of the enemy shinobi, and before anyone else could react, she had slapped a seal on them, knocking them out instantly. Only then did they realize why Anko was leading this team. Although they still weren't sure what they were supposed to do with the crazy woman that was talking with a snake, they decided to simply not bother her. A few minutes of traveling later, the small group arrived in front of a small cave, and after spreading her senses, a deep frown appeared on Anko's face. Good news, our target either didn't notice us detecting their position or didn't bother running away. Bad news, this is not a fight any of you should participate in. Naturally, Anko's small team was confused by her words. What do you mean, Matara? Before any questions could be asked, intense pressure started radiating out of the cave, almost causing the weaker members of the group to collapse. Kufufufu. Creepy laughter echoed out of the cave, giving Anko's team the chills, while she could only shake her head with a wry smile on her face. I was not expecting to ever see you again. It's been a while, Orochimaru. Moments later, a tall man with pale skin exited the cave. He had pale skin and long black hair. Two horns grew out of his forehead while a purple pigmentation surrounded his eyes. Additionally, his left eye was completely black, the typical color of someone who was reanimated with the Edo Tensei, but his other eye was actually yellow and snake-like. He appeared to be in a weird state between being reanimated and being alive simultaneously. Indeed, I wasn't expecting that I would have a chance to avenge my death either. It's so naughty of you to kill your beloved sensei, Anko-chan. The people behind Anko couldn't help but be surprised when they heard Orochimaru's words. Wasn't Orochimaru killed by Uchiha-sama? Yeah, I also heard about that. Weird, why does he claim that Midoriya-sama killed him? Orochimaru frowned when he heard the words of the fodder behind Anko. Sasuke killed me. Or maybe they mean Itachi. Where did that weird rumor come from? Whatever, it does not matter. Anyway, now that I have obtained the same power as you, I will enjoy killing you, Anko-chan. Or rather than killing you, I will keep you alive and make you my test subject. I can't wait to find out how you absorb natural energy. Anko chuckled in amusement at Orochimaru's words and prepared herself for combat. You lot, fall back. This is not a fight you should participate in. As she finished giving her order and saw that her little squad was retreating, Anko continued speaking with a teasing smile on her face. Anyway, will you be fine, Orochimaru? As far as I know, Sage Mode has a time limit of 5 minutes. Are you fine with chatting like this? Just so you know, I won't be going limp after a mere 5 minutes, so I hope you have this planned out. He's tilde. That clearly wasn't a sexual innuendo, Akane. You just have a dirty mind. He's tilde. He's tilde. He's tilde. Language. Although Orochimaru was slightly dumbfounded by the weird scene before him, he nonetheless continued talking. He simply couldn't help himself but brag about how much of a genius he was. Kufufu, you don't need to worry about that. Naturally, I made some improvements to prevent that from happening. Anko's eyes widened in surprise when she heard that. After properly scanning Orochimaru's body, she noticed that he had complex patterns all over his skin. Oh. You managed to incorporate Jugo's condition into your curse seal properly. Guess this will be fun after all. Although Orochimaru was surprised that Anko seemed to be familiar with Jugo, he couldn't care less. Finally, he could get revenge for the humiliation he received from Anko. And after he was done with her, he would do the same to Yuna. He couldn't help but chuckle a little when he imagined all the secrets he would be able to unveil after getting his hands on Yuna's body. Yes, today will be a good day. Chapter 492, Team Sundari. Simultaneously, on a different battlefield deep in the desert, a somewhat unusual conflict for this war occurred. Unlike most battles, Obito's troops were actually much lower in number than the great shinobi alliances. While the Great Shinobi Alliance had amassed over 10,000 people on this battlefield, Obito had a mere 4 people. However, those 4 people were oozing enough pressure to intimidate many shinobi from the Alliance. These 4 were the reanimations of the 3rd Reikage, 2nd Tsukikage, 4th Keisukage, and 2nd Mizukage. While the 4th Keisukage, Rosa, could be held back by Gaara, his son, and the 2nd Tsukikage could be held back by Oanoki, the 3rd, there was no one to stop the 3rd Reikage, and 2nd Mizukage, Genjutsu Huzuki. Gaara's sand and Rosa's gold dust were constantly colliding and intermixing. Both of them had very similar fighting styles, with the exception that they were using different materials. Meanwhile, Oanoki and Mew were in a similar situation, as both of them could use particle style, an incredibly powerful Kekkei Toda. While a normal Kekkei Genkai was the combination of 2 elements, a Kekkei Toda was the combination of 3, making it almost unblockable. On the other hand, Genjutsu appeared to be more or less plain with the shinobi forces as he patiently tried to explain how his jutsus worked, with no one being the smarter after he finished his explanation. It was something about him being an illusion, so they had to destroy a gigantic climb summon, but when they tried to do so, it turned out that the climb they saw was an illusion as well, confusing everyone immensely. And finally, A was fighting a tall man holding a massive sword. A's clenched fist flew towards the swordsman, causing him to slash his chakra-covered sword down, colliding with the attack. An enormous explosion occurred, causing the swordsman to groan while sending him sliding back a few meters. As soon as the swordsman separated from A barrage of jutsu crashed into A, making the swordsman grimace. He wasn't exactly a man of honor, but having hundreds of shinobi helping him against a single man hurt his pride a little. A walked out of the dust cloud without a single scratch on his body, showing how ridiculously hard it was to wound him. He looked at his fist and noticed a small nick in his skin, impressing him greatly. He briefly wondered why the wound wasn't healing like it was the case with the other Ida Tensei, but decided that it did not matter. "Who are you, swordsman?" The swordsman crouched down, getting in a combat stance. He couldn't help but feel some pride due to the 3rd Reikage asking for his name. Wasn't some random cage-level powerhouse, he was one of the strongest cage of all time, probably only surpassed by Hashirama Senju himself. Zabuza Momocha, 7 ninja swordsman of the Mist and chief combat instructor of the Uzumaki clan. That's right, the person who was currently holding back the Reikage was no other than Zabuza. He had clashed with the Reikage dozens of times by now, and he could feel his limit slowly approaching. Was not someone he could fight against for an extended period of time. Meanwhile, I wondered why someone from the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist was an instructor at the Uzumaki clan, but it didn't matter to him. Someone with these titles was worthy of him getting serious. And so, he loosened his fist and stretched out 4 of his finger, significantly increasing the chakra density and making Zabuza gulp. "Well, Dan. I'm done for." He concentrated even more chakra in his sword despite these thoughts and prepared himself for the clash. And moments later, the Reikage vanished from his position. Dozens of earth walls rose between the Reikage and Zabuza, but A smashed through them like they were made out of paper and appeared in front of Zabuza not even a second later, stabbing forwards with 4 fingers. Zabuza roared loudly as he slashed his sword down, colliding with A's attack and causing another loud explosion. At the start, the clash was about even, but a few seconds in, A reduced the number of fingers to 3, making Zabuza sweat. A few more seconds later, Zabuza could no longer push any further, and his sword was smashed away, making him pale. Zabuza smiled sadly as A's 3 fingers were slowly approaching his chest. "Is this how I go down? Oh well, I guess falling against someone like the 3rd Reikage is not a bad death. I just wish I could have said goodbye to Haka." He was just about to close his eyes and accept his death when he felt something in the atmosphere change. "It's suddenly getting much colder." Boom. Before Zabuza could fully understand what was going on, an ice pillar burst out of the ground just in front of Zabuza's feet and smashed into A, sending him flying before he could hit Zabuza with his attack. Why are you giving up like that, Fatha cough Zabuza-sama? This isn't like you. Zabuza's eyes widened as his head snapped towards the source of the voice, where he could see his beloved Do. Cough weapon, yes, definitely his weapon. Haku, what are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to bait out that Obito guy? Haku appeared next to Zabuza and nodded her head. Yes, and we managed to do so. Unfortunately, Black Setsu appeared and gave him a report, causing him to run away. TSK, what a cockroach. Haku nodded in agreement as her gaze fell on the slowly approaching wreckage. Yet again, there were no wounds on his body. That was pretty good, little girl. If I wasn't reanimated, I might have actually felt some pain from that. As soon as he finished speaking, he reduced the number of fingers to 2, causing Zabuza and Haku to get serious. Let's fight him together, F.A. Cough Zabuza-sama. Yes, let's seal this monster away, Do cough Haku. Chapter 493, Haku plus Zabuza vs. A few minutes later, Haku and Zabuza had sweat flowing down their head as they were heavily panting, trying to catch their breath. In front of them stood A, who still seemed to be unhurt except for a few minor scratches all over his body. He still had not switched to using only one finger, which would significantly increase his attack power. However, Haku and Zabuza both knew that him reducing the finger count was only a question of time. Zabuza took another shallow breath and glanced at his sword to check its condition. First of all, the whole thing was covered in a thin sheet of ice, which he was pretty sure was the only reason that it was still intact. Although Haku and Zabuza were at their limit, they continued pushing since they knew that the preparations would be done soon. Neither of them was an especially good sensor, but they could tell that someone was preparing something to stop the wreckage. Yet again, A charged at the duo, causing them to grit their teeth. Zabuza moved forwards as well and lowered his sword to slash upward. Another devastating explosion ravaged the battlefield as the two powerful strikes collided. Zabuza could feel himself getting pushed back, but before that could happen, a pillar of ice rose from the ground and pushed against Zabuza's sword, increasing the pushback against A's finger stab. Simultaneously, a single icicle shot out of the ground towards A's back. However, he completely ignored the attack, and as soon as it collided with him, the icicle simply broke apart, causing Haku to click her tongue. Another ice pillar burst forth in front of Zabuza to help him disengage from the wreckage, but this time, A powerfully stomped the ground, obliterating the pillar. However, Zabuza used the chance when A was temporarily not standing on both of his feet and gave A another push, resulting in him stumbling backward a little, giving Zabuza a chance to take some distance. Damn, this guy is a monster. Indeed, I guess the only ones who can actually defeat him in real combat are Yuna and Naruto. Although Zabuza frowned a little when Haku mentioned Naruto's name, he could only agree with her words. If it was a question of raw firepower, then no one could match Yuna and Naruto. Although it was fun playing with you, it's time to end this. Haku grimaced when she heard A's words, but moments later, a smile appeared on her face as she relaxed her posture. Indeed, this fight is over. I was confused about what Haku was talking about, but not even a second later, his unasked question was answered. Uzumaki's ceiling style, 16 pillar prison array, x16. 16 light beams shot up into the sky around the position where Haku, Zabuza, and A were fighting. Moments later, gigantic red walls appeared between the 16 pillars, forming a gigantic hexadecagon. As soon as Haku saw the barrier appearing, she clapped her hands together and pumped all the chakra she had left into her last jutsu. Thousands of gigantic icicles appeared in midair, floating around Haku. The pointed ends were pointed at A, and without a second of hesitation, all of them shot at him like bullets. As soon as Haku had fired her jutsu, Zabuza grabbed her and started running towards the closest barrier wall. I wanted to chase after them, but such an amount of powerful attacks was too much for A to simply ignore. He was still not taking any damage, but he couldn't move forward either. After a few seconds of running, they reached the border of the barrier and a small passage immediately opened up in front of them, allowing them to leave the trap. Haha, good job holding him back for so long, you know. This sealing arrangement is not easy to make. Haku and Zabuza exhaustedly nodded at the Uzumaki, who allowed them to get out. He was sitting on the ground cross-legged, and one of his hands was touching the massive barrier while the other one pointed skyward, creating a much smaller barrier that was only covering himself. Neither Haku nor Zabuza knew anything about seals, but they assumed the smaller barrier was created to protect the caster. They weren't sure how many people would be allowed to fall out before the barrier stopped working, so they assumed their guess was reasonable. Meanwhile, a disdainful smile appeared on the Rakage face inside the entrapment. You want to trap me? Emi, the one who carries the strongest spear. Courageous but stupid. A switch to one finger, increasing the density and sharpness of his attacks even further. He flexed his muscles as the lightning chakra surrounding him got even more intense. Let me show you how futile your attempts of trapping me truly are. Hellstad, one finger Nukaidi. Charged at the position where Haku and Zabuza exited with high speed, and he stabbed forward not even a second later. His lightning-covered finger crashed into the barrier, causing waves to form. A sneer deepened even further as he went all out. Break for me. The ripples became stronger and stronger, and then it happened. Lost all of his momentum, and before he knew what was going on, he was shot away from the barrier like a missile and crashed into the opposite wall. Yet again, the barrier started rippling, but this time a little weaker than before. Before he could understand what just happened, he was yet again blasted away and crashed into the opposite wall. This spectacle kept going for a while, and after a total of 10 times, a twitching Rakage was lying in the middle of the barrier. He had no idea what just happened, and if he weren't reanimated, he was pretty sure that he would be throwing up due to the roller coaster ride he just went through. While I had no clue what happened to him, loud cheering intermixed with cries of despair echoed over the battlefield. Ha ha ha, I knew it. He bounced 10 times, you know. That's right, that was obvious, you know. No, why did I bet on the 11th bounce? Damn it, I will give the idiot who guaranteed me it would be 9A beating, you know. And then, coupons for special ramen editions changed owners, leaving Haku and Zabuza completely dumbfounded. Were they betting on how many times he would bounce? Is that why it took so long to make the barrier? They were taking bets. Haku and Zabuza's expressions became stern as they had already decided to ask Yuna for a proper investigation. If that is what actually happened, Tucha will make significantly less money in the next few months. Chapter 494, Let's do some culling. Meanwhile, at a hidden location, a young woman with red hair and blue strands was casually walking toward her destination. While everyone in the control room was making a fuss about the appearance of the 4 cage, Yuna stealthily made a clone of herself and switched places with it. After a few more minutes of walking, she reached her destination. A massive clearing that had seemingly nothing in it. However, Yuna knew precisely what was going on here. She continued walking, and moments later, she felt as if she had just passed through a thin film of water. As soon as she passed the film, a lavish building appeared in front of her, causing her to chuckle in amusement. Oh no, I passed through this barrier so easily, it must be defective. Oh yeah, what a surprise. To think you could walk through a concealment seal you designed yourself so easily. Truly a grand surprise. Yuna chuckled yet again when she heard Kurama's sarcastic words as she approached the entrance of the building. 2 guards stood in front of the door, but Yuna walked past them like they weren't even there. Both of them looked a little dazed. Although a rarely used genjutsu, this stuff can be pretty good. Ugh, I hate genjutsu. Not surprising, considering how easily you can get controlled by a mere Sharingan. Instead of answering, Kurama only clicked his tongue in annoyance. Hashirama's wood style and Madara's Sharingan could both suppress Bija, annoying him immensely. He wasn't sure about the reason, but he assumed that it had something to do with the Sage of Six Paths creating them and Uchiha and Senju being his descendants. Anyway, Yuna easily infiltrated the building and casually walked past every guard she saw, tricking even Jonin. A few minutes later, she reached her destination, a huge room filled with pompous-looking men and lavish decorations. In the middle of the room stood a gigantic table filled with all kinds of luxurious foods and drinks. The whole room was filled with smoke due to multiple people smoking suspicious substances, making it impossible to see further than a few meters. Yuna shook her head and entered the room, immediately catching a rather enlightening conversation. "Fire Daimyo Dono, what do you think about this whole war business?" "Oh? Greetings, when Daimyo Dono. Honestly, I think this whole thing is rather stupid. Isn't it just another madman that wants to rule over the world?" The Fire Daimyo shook his head in contempt as he continued speaking. "Don't madmen like that pop up like twice a month? I don't see why everyone is making such a fuss about it." The Wind Daimyo nodded in agreement to what he had just heard and resumed talking. "I agree. At first, I didn't want to agree to this senseless war, but no matter how you look at it, the 5 great shinobi villages forming an alliance is a rather profitable matter. Indeed, at first, neither of the daimyo were particularly interested in this fight. After all, Akatsuki didn't hold any land, nor were there any riches to be gained. Why bother fighting them? However, they suddenly got reports that the 5 great shinobi villages planned an alliance. This was a huge matter. A crooked smile appeared on the Fire Daimyo's face when he thought about the alliance. Indeed, no one can resist us with that kind of alliance. As soon as this war, whatever, is over, we can probably divide the smaller nations between us as we see fit. The Wind Daimyo chuckled in amusement as he opened the fan he was holding with a loud clack. Ho ho ho, negotiations on who gets how much will be a pain, won't they? The Fire Daimyo copied the Wind Daimyo movements and started fanning himself. Hee, they will, but it will be worth it. I can't wait to bring my country even more prosperity. The Wind Daimyo nodded his head in agreement as he imagined getting his hands on some of the prosperous land surrounding the Land of Wind. Moments later, a teasing expression appeared on his face, making the Fire Daimyo frown. Hee, I heard someone from your village held a rather interesting speech. It seems like Konohagakure is rather bad at cultivating their shinobi to be loyal. The Fire Daimyo frowned a little when he heard these words as he tried to think of what the Wind Daimyo might be talking about. A few seconds later, he realized what he meant, causing an annoyed expression to appear on his face. That damn girl has always been very rebellious. She seems to be hell-bent on continuing to act like that. Oh? So you already knew about her? What do you plan to do with her? I won't mind helping out with a few assassins. The Fire Daimyo shook his head at the suggestion. It was rather evident that the Wind Daimyo wanted to help get rid of her because she was a valuable combat asset of Konoha. No, I don't plan to get rid of her. I heard that her combat strength is pretty good, so I would rather keep her. The Wind Daimyo nodded his head. He was a little disappointed that he couldn't get rid of one of Konoha's promising youths. Well, he considered doing it himself, but he stored that idea away rather quickly. Ignorant of the Wind Daimyo's thoughts, the Fire Daimyo continued speaking. Anyway, I already know how to deal with her. After this war is over, I will just hand over a medal and congratulate her personally regarding her achievements during the war, even if she didn't have any. That should make her wag her tail at me instantly. After all, shinobi love nothing more than getting medals. The Wind Daimyo only nodded his head at that last statement. He fully agreed to the plan. Meanwhile, Yuna could only shake her head at the conversation she was listening to. I knew they were worthless due to the many reports I received about them, but holy hell, this is abysmal. How do people this incompetent even get to simply nod his head, anticipating what kind of madness would happen? Chapter 496, Let's Dance. Two imposing figures wearing warring state armor overlooked the battlefield in front of them. Despite being only two people against thousands, the duo easily pressured the massive army in front of them with their mere presence. Ha ha ha, to think I would fight side by side with you one day, Madara. Madara ignored the laughing men next to him and let his gaze wander over the battlefield before him. Moments later, he shook his head. I would prefer fighting you over this gathering of weaklings, Hashirama. Ha ha ha, as feisty as always. However, if what my wife told me in the Pure Land is true, there should be a rather interesting individual out there. In fact, this is the second time I got reanimated, and she was the one who sealed me during that incident. Well, I was far from my peak at that time, but it was rather interesting nonetheless. Especially since she was like 13. Madara's eyes gleamed with interest when he heard Hashirama's words. Oh? So young and yet so strong. And a woman to boot. Madara briefly wondered just how much potential a child between him and her would have, but he quickly dismissed that notion. Soon, true peace will be granted to this world. There is no point in thinking about useless stuff. MHH, I really wonder what kind of force we are facing here. All of them have a shinobi written on their forehead protectors. Madara heard Hashirama's words and scanned the crowd. He could easily tell that the force in front of him had a large diversity. People from all over the continent stood in front of them. These are the allied shinobi nations. It's an alliance between of the 5 great shinobi nations which was specially formed to fight this war. The duo glanced at the person who just said that, Mo, and nodded their heads. While Madara was rather indifferent, Hashirama had a conflicted expression. Sigh, on the one hand, I'm happy that the great villages are finally at peace. On the other hand, I would rather not partake in this war. Especially not opposite the allied nations. Meanwhile, Oanoki trembled in fear when he saw Madara and felt his presence. For him, Madara was an invincible monster. And he even had a bit of trauma due to him. I am possible, Madarach. Madara Fskinuchaha. A human figure crashed into the ground between the two opposing forces, causing a wave of cold air to wash over both sides. A young woman with a crazed, almost feral smile walked out of the crater and focused her gaze on Madara. Naturally, this woman was Yuna, but instead of 2 purple pupils, one of them turned crimson. You finally appeared, Madara. When she spoke, it sounded like 2 people were talking simultaneously, causing Madara to raise his eyebrows. Considering the crazy amount of battle intent the young woman was projecting, Madara had a pretty good idea of who she was, so he gave Hashirama a slight glance, making him chuckle. Yes, that's definitely the woman I was talking about. As for her voice, apparently, the Kyuubi has a grudge against you and me, so it's giving her its chakra freely. Madara nodded his head. This unknown woman piqued his curiosity. Moments later, Mu started twitching, and after doing so for a short moment, he resumed speaking with a different voice. That is Yuno Uzumaki, our most significant obstacle in winning this war. I would like you to. That was as far as he got before an ice slash appeared in front of him and sliced through his body vertically. Silence, insect. Can't you see you are delaying my fun time? Madara's eyes widened in surprise at the speed of the attack. That was very fast. I might not have been able to see it if it weren't for my Sharingan. Additionally, why is the body not regenerating? Isn't this guy reanimated as well? Interesting. A battle-thirsty smile appeared on Madara's face as he jumped down the cliff he was standing on. Hashirama could only smile wryly when he saw Madara's expression. Seems like his battle thirst got ignited, huh? Oh well, might as well see where this goes. Hashirama followed Madara to the ground and landed next to him. When he saw that the other shinobi was still frozen in place and that Yuna apparently wanted to fight alone, a concerned expression appeared on his face. I'm not looking down on you or anything like that, but are you sure you want to fight both of us alone? That's definitely too much. To Hashirama's surprise, a slightly guilty expression appeared on Yuna's face as she averted her eyes. Cough, of course, I didn't plan to fight you by myself. You totally forgot, huh? Nope, definitely not. I'm a good big sister and wouldn't hold Naruto's playmate all for myself. Sure, I believe you. Moments later, Yuna took out an orange kunai and tossed it into the ground next to her. Not even a second later, Naruto appeared next to her. He was currently holding a thin man holding a needle-like sword by his head. The man tried to repeatedly stab his weapon into Naruto, but Naruto's chakra armor stopped every stab. His hands glowed blue for a short moment, covering the man in seals and turning him into a small capsule. What's wrong, Nei-san? My present for father-in-law is almost completed, so I'm a little busy right now. As he said that, he took the needle-like sword and turned it into a capsule as well. Then, he took out a small box with 7 slots, 4 of which were filled, and put the 5th capsule inside. The marking of the slot where he stored the capsule read, Nuabari. Yuna chuckled in amusement, but instead of answering, she nudged her head towards Madara and Hashirama. Naruto's gaze wandered to where Yuna was pointing, and when he saw who stood there, his face split into a battle-thirsty grin while one of his eyes turned crimson. Madara, Hashirama. Finally. Madara couldn't help but be surprised at another powerhouse appearing. Although Naruto's presence wasn't as obscene as Yuna's, he was by no means a pushover. Yet again, his gaze landed on Hashirama, who apparently had met the girl before. Madara guessed that he would know the young man as well. Hashirama pondered for a short moment before he came to a conclusion. Although I didn't see the whole fight, I believe he fought and won against the Ichibi while I was fighting Yuna. Madara's eyes shone with interest when he heard that. Fighting and winning against a Bijou at the tender age of 13 was no joke. It had been a long time since he got a chance to dance, so he decided to get this fight going as fast as possible. Without a moment of hesitation, Madara launched himself towards Yuna and Naruto, quickly followed by Hashirama, who could only smile wryly at his old friend's battle-thirsty smile. Let's dance.